There is a darkness in the soul of cats, a primal urge to rend, to rip, to shred, born from their origins as nature's hunters. Instinctual murderousness that can be seen in Tom and his pursuit of Jerry, but ultimately doomed to always fail. Imagine a storyline though that ends their rivalry where Tom wins, Tom casually dropping Jerry, distended yet still living body, at the feet of that cancelled magnet housekeeper, expecting praise for his efforts but instead getting the usual shriek from his mistress and a hefty twat from her preferred weapon of choice, that being the trusted horsehair broom. The scene and series could end with Jerry weakly trying to shovel back in his miniature entrails back into his ribcage with his one working front limb, all while fighting the insistence of his eyelids to close one last final time. All the while, Adagio for Strings by Barber plays out over his mournful demise. A brave struggle for survival finally brought to an abrupt, tragic end. Powerful. Do it, Hanna-Barbera, you cowards. I see no downsides. So, yes, Tom and Jerry the movie. Not that one from 2021 that you possibly weren't aware of, because I wasn't, that starred Chloe Moretz, who is somehow an adult now. The one I'm talking about is from 1992 and had 2 games spread across 4 formats, although there is a caveat attached to the second release, but more on that in a bit. Tom and Jerry the movie was the first feature-length movie starring the feuding mammal pair and marked their first appearance in the cinema for over 25 years, where they had previously been getting in each other's grills in movie shorts. The synopsis for this Tom and Jerry movie might reveal why the movie's games adaptations are appearing in this here series, the games based on flop movies. It should be surprising though, given the duo's pan-generational appeal. This synopsis is from Wikipedia. The film tells a story about an 8-year-old girl named Robin Starling who enlists Tom and Jerry's help to escape from her abusive aunt and reunite with her long-lost and presumed dead father. So do you watch Tom and Jerry for its emotional heft? If so, why? It's finely honed slapstick violence between 2 adversaries. It's bloody good at it. Would that conceit be sustainably interesting for 1.5 hours? Probably as a DVD set, probably not with a single movie plotline with character development throughout. Having them team up and introducing other characters and dramatic dialogue between those characters? That is not Tom and Jerry. Sometimes incredible characters don't lend themselves to a feature-length movie. I'm sad to say that Tom and Jerry probably is that kind of cultural touchstone. I could be wrong, but this isn't it. I haven't watched the 2021 one. I presume that was pretty bad as well, because that got crap reviews too. The movie took a beating at both the box office and from the critics, much to the chagrin of distributors Miramax. Review aggregation website Rotten Tomatoes gave the film a 14% approval rating aggregated from all of its scores, and the movie made just $3 million, scraping into the lower half of that week's charts. It wasn't like it had strong competition either. The other movies released that week were Robin Hood Men in Tights, Rising Sun, and So I Married an Axe Murderer. It wasn't a case of Last Action Hero launching at the same time as Jurassic Park. Let's put it that way. So yes, there were 2 games released to tie in with the movie. Tom and Jerry the Movie on the Master System and Game Gear, and Tom and Jerry Frantic Antics on Mega Drive and Game Boy. Actually, there were 3. There was a Tiger Electronics handheld too, but I think we can omit that one. I think we can just assume that it's a bit crap. Tom and Jerry the Movie was developed by Soft Development Innovation Multi-Success for Sega, but you can call them Sims for short. Sims started out as a venture between Sega and Sanritsu Denki Co. in 1991, but became its own company in 2004. The Master System version debuted first in 1992, with the Game Gear version moseying on down the following year in 1993. There is the grand total of diddly squat difference between the Game Gear and the Master System one, as is the nature of the Master System to Game Gear transfer. So let's concentrate on Big Brother, the El Misterio Sissy Tumba, shall we? That's the Sega Master System that I made sound a bit weird. Well, as you can see, it's visually pretty top-notch for an 8-bit title, once again proving that the Sega console was streets ahead of most of the competition of similar bittage, with the PC Engine obviously being the standout from that era. The concept is very traditionally Tom and Jerry, with the grey feline in hot pursuit of the vermin across a variety of locales. Its connection to the movie, after what it is named after, is minimal, largely non-existent. Not only are the pair at odds in this, not teaming up to reunite an 8-year-old girl with her absent father, none of the other characters in the movie are present, nor are any of the scenes from that aforementioned movie on display. I would be very surprised if Sega even saw a treatment from the script. It is very much a Tom and Jerry license, but not at all a Tom and Jerry the movie license. Don't worry, the irony hammer is poised ready to strike as soon as we get to look at the Mega Drive and Game Boy versions. Don't worry about that. How does this play though? Pretty good, all things considered. Jerry is always ahead of you and will tease you for slacking. You can't actually catch him up until the end of the stage. When you do catch him up at the end of the stage, you'll get the same message telling you that Tom has been a dozy prick and let him out of his clasp. Some of these stages will incorporate a kind of boss encounter, and Jerry will laze about as you do battle with said boss. Far from the erratic carnal harem-scarum charging about that Tom exhibits in the cartoon, here the feline has the precise and deliberate movement of, perhaps surprisingly, an early Prince of Persia game. Yes, he still pegs it after his prey, but when you get to the actual platforms, there is a real Jordan Menschner type of control to the game. It gives Tom a good weight and a smoothness of animation that you might not get from a lesser effort. More on that in a bit. Now, to the downsides, and one fairly glaring one. It is very short. If you know what you're doing, Tom and Jerry the movie can be finished in around 10 minutes. That's not to say you will finish it in 10 minutes, as it can be very tricky in the first few attempts to get past some of these levels, but I'd be very confident in saying that just about any 90s 10-year-old will have finished this game by the end of any given weekend. Some of the deaths you'll encounter can seem a little bit unfair. For instance, I lost a life while being above the screen rather than falling down a pit. That doesn't seem to make sense to me, but that's the least of this game's issues. It is the length that is the real big issue, and it is a bit of a shame. Sega reviewed the Game Gear version and gave it a 2 out of 5 stars. They said the smooth graphics and excellent characterization of the two cartoon legends mean that this probably would be pleasant enough if it wasn't for the ridiculously easy gameplay. Moving on to the next game, Frantic Antics, which debuted in 1993 on both the Sega Mega Drive, or Genesis if you're that way inclined, and the Game Boy. You may well notice the word movie is conspicuously absent. This was a decision based on the mauling the movie received at the jaws of the critics and the public's resultant indifference to sit in a 90s cinema and watch the debacle unfold in front of them while filling their cheeks with exploded corn. Ironically enough though, this game actually does follow the plotline of the movie, featuring characters and levels based on scenes from the film. Frantic Antics is structurally the same on the Mega Drive and the Game Boy, but the levels in the Game Boy version are a fair amount smaller. And actually, probably a bit better as a result. The levels alternate between you playing as either character as you follow the plotline of trying to get little girl Robin reunited with her daddy. Both of them controlled largely the same, with the action kind of zoomed in during the Jerry stages. This means that they've drawn some of the enemies twice with larger and smaller versions. The Game Boy version looks absolutely fine for what it is, but the Mega Drive version, well, that does not look good at all. Arguably, the Master System version, which remember was released earlier and is indeed on a lesser system, actually looks a lot better, certainly in the colour palette and animation stakes. Tom is noticeably too dark a grey in the Mega Drive version. And what the actual fudge is this? It is nightmarish. Gameplay wise, well, it feels a bit like a Bubsy the Bobcat game, only not as good. There's a floatiness to your playable characters and large meandering levels that just are not fun to play. Yes, there are secrets dotted about, but they look like this. It just seems a bit cheap and shoddy to me. It's a barrel scraping yank format, an absolutely offensively Blair nothing of a license game. It will be a decent challenge for sure, but you will get mightily bored of it long before you see the end of it. Not the worst platformer on the Game Boy or the Mega Drive, but much further away from being one of the best. GamePro reviewed the Game Boy one in December of 1993. They said it was not a bad game to play and gave it a 3.5 for its fun factor. Megatech reviewed the Mega Drive version in their issue 28. They gave it a 42 overall and said it was a very poor game that could have been infinitely better. So yes, very strange. The one that was named after the movie, that's nothing to do with the movie, is far better than the one that isn't named after the movie, but follows the plotline exactly. What a strange world in which we live, and maybe one day we'll get a decent Tom and Jerry movie where the little mouse is shoveling his guts back into his ribcage and dying. That's all I ask for, along with the number of a psychiatrist. Like, subscribe, and K thanks, bye.